Thanks for tuning in to the Animal Control Report podcast, where we help debunk the dog catcher stereotype. A lot of times people think it's the dog catcher when they hear about animal control officers. But here on the Animal Control Report, we change that by taking you inside the day-to-day operations of animal control officers. Not only will you hear stories of animal control officers, but you'll hear from industry experts as well. We are also part of the Keep It Humane podcast network. We have some amazing partners there, so check them out at keepithumane.com/podcast network. You can listen to all the animal control and animal welfare related podcasts there. And let's continue to help people help animals.
Welcome to the Animal Control Report with your hosts,
Ashley Bishop.
And just one Ashley Bishop and Daniel Ettinger. How you doing, Bishop?
Good. Just, getting ready for another week. It's been busy. So
Summertime,
huh? Summertime. And then like I told, we had a really good meeting with a fairly large organization here locally in Texas. And we were explaining to them how we are on the academic calendar since we're like in a college town, and they found it very interesting. So I will tell you, the kids are starting to flood back and we are starting to get a lot more calls.
Dang kids.
How are you?
Those kids. I'm good. I'm good. Also, really quick, just check out I like to say this every time, please check out our Facebook, Instagram pages. We have an X page. We have a TikTok page, either Keep It Humane or Facebook. Wait, I can't even talk. Keep It Humane or the Animal Control Report on Facebook, Instagram. And then TikTok is Keep It Humane and X is Keep It Humane. So confusing. There's just a lot of stuff. Just keep it humane, people.
Does anybody use X anymore, really?
I use it all the time, but like really, to be honest, I use it for the Pittsburgh Steelers updates. As long as I'm keeping it honest here on this podcast, because it's easier to get like the little headlines and stuff through there than it is anywhere else, in my opinion.
Fair enough.
Like that's what I used. Yeah.
Fair enough.
X is moving to your neck of the woods, though.
I heard. I mean, well, most of his stuff is down where I'm from too. I know people are not very happy about all of that. I know a lot of the beach that he took over for SpaceX down there was a lot that we used to go as a kid. So yeah, I don't know how happy my neck of the woods is really down south for that particular. I don't know where is he planning to put the headquarters for X, has he said?
I'm not sure, actually. Yeah, I just know that he is moving it out of California. So we actually watched the SpaceX launch early this morning. It launched just after midnight and it was really neat. I was super excited about it. My kid was visiting with one of her friends and they were a little less excited about it, but they were excited to like be out. We were down actually right at the beach and just hanging out. And it's just like a good vibe, the weather was beautiful. And then this little tiny red dot starts flying across the sky, but it looked really cool. I'll show you a picture. For those of you that are watching on YouTube or Spotify, you can see this photo really quick of the little rocket. Somebody said it looked like an upside down comet. And turn my blur off. Hang on. Got to fix blur. There you go.
That's neat. What a great picture. Damn.
Thank you. Yeah, it was super cool. Oops. Don't know how to work the camera anymore, but
that's neat.
Yeah, it was cool. It was a lot of fun to watch it. I thought it was actually going to be a bigger flash in the sky because sometimes they're like this blue, weird coloring. But this one wasn't. So
I haven't been lucky enough. So SpaceX down in Cameron County got built after I left. So, yeah, I haven't been able to take pleasure in all of that stuff down there.
Got to take a trip, bro.
Man, I haven't been home in like almost 2 years now. I've just been so busy.
Trying to take a trip in your little rocket ship.
Honestly.
So yeah, things are good. I'm actually going back so I left my previous job in San Diego County. I never talked about it on this program because I don't usually do that. I don't talk about my work. until I'm gone. And hopefully this next job, I'm never gone, to be honest. It's a amazing place to be. But I have to head back to San Diego so tonight I'm going to drive down, and the court had to, they didn't have to, but I asked. I was like, look, I'm coming from like an hour and a half, 2 hours away. And you want me to be there at what time tomorrow morning? And they were like 8:30. I was like, you know about California traffic, right? I was like, is there any way that the courts will pay for a hotel? So they have a hotel for me. Hopefully it's not a bad hotel where they put all the criminals. I don't know. I'm kind of worried. But it's a case. Obviously, I can't get into specifics, but it's a case that happened when I was there. And I'm excited to see. I never actually had a chance to test it. Like in my job when I was with the county was more in an admin role. So I didn't really get involved in many cases. So obviously I wasn't testifying. But this case I got involved in specifically to just really help be supportive, provide some guidance to the team. And I thought we ended up doing a really good job. And so I'm excited to see how the case goes tomorrow.
That's neat. Good. Yeah. I don't disagree though, for everybody listening, make sure you make friends with your prosecutors for the jurisdictions that you work with. Even if you're not directly involved in the case, sometimes it's good as a supervisor or some kind of administration role to be brought on the stand as an expert in the
Mhm.
industry, and it's always helpful. I know our previous prosecutor, who is now our judge, I used to like to support her in her endeavors. And she used to ask me or my assistant supervisor to come on the stand, just to kind of re-solidify why we do what we do and those type of things. So don't ever be afraid to take that stand to support your staff or your prosecutor for those things.
And I think a lot of people, especially the newer officers, I hear a lot that there's like, and I get it. By no means is it like an easy thing. You just walk up there, sit down, and be like, "This is what happened." Like it can be intimidating, and so
Mm.
I absolutely respect that. And I think if you have that good relationship with your prosecutor, you can pregame and talk about, "Hey, this is what I'm going to ask you." For those that haven't testified, it's kind of a standard process. It's like you get on the witness stand, you tell them what your name is, who you work for, your years of experience, the maybe training that you have that qualifies in animal welfare, that type of stuff, and then they start asking specific questions about the case. And this case is, what month is this? This case is almost 8 months old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and yeah, so um, I asked because I'm not with that agency anymore. So I was like, do you have a copy of my report? Because I'm going to need to refresh my memory. So I'll read that over before I go and sit down. And then, there are times where you can ask, like, may I please refer to my report for like specific dates or maybe a specific animal name if you don't recall. Maybe it's a case where there's a lot of animals or something, stuff like that. And the judge is usually, I've never actually heard a judge say, no, you cannot refer to your notes. But just having those handy is just, in a sense, like leads to your confidence knowing that you can refer to it. But a lot of people just, once they get up there, they get into their rhythm and then good to go.
Agreed. I think every time I've ever been on the stand, I still get pretty nervous. Even though I get asked the same stuff all the time, like, how long have you been here? Why do you do this? Why do you do that? I'm like, I'm 5 years old and I play with dogs.
Well, if you think about it, though, that just the process is intimidating.
It
Like,
is.
or maybe I shouldn't use that word, but the court has just this set of like, it's very structured and like, like I'm even, I don't know about you. You can tell me right now on air, Bishop, because like when I go and do my speaking and things like that, and I wear a suit, I usually wear tennis shoes in my suit because it's just comfortable. I'm on my feet all day. I'm teaching, I'm moving around like that. Can I wear tennis shoes to the court with a suit?
I wouldn't.
Right? But that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like that's the different. Like that's how court is. Like court has that. Like let's be honest. I probably could, and no one would say a darn thing. But it's court, and you're like, what if I do? Like, what if the judge is like one of those judges, and then they like, you can't wear tennis shoes in my court, and then the case just gets thrown out.
we've had a judge like that, like no
Yeah,
sunglasses on your head, no
yeah.
chewing gum. I mean, some of them can be pretty gnarly when it comes to what they like and appreciate in their courts.
But it's 2024, and I'm like, I'm not gonna wear some raggedy ass tennis shoes with dog poop on them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's, I want comfort over whatever the word is, fashion.
Professionalism.
That's probably the right word. Yeah. Aw, who's this one?
This is Gibby's.
Hi, Gibbies.
This is
Yep.
my Brian Street dog. Okay, this is not a chain, by the way, just so that
Is
everybody
that
knows.
bling? Bling bling?
It's bling. It's plastic. It's made out of plastic.
Looks
But
good.
he's my Brian Street dog, and he acts like a Brian Street dog.
Can I wear something like that into the courtroom tomorrow?
I don't see why not. This is fashion right now, I tell
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, it is fashion. He's cool. Gibby.
Say hi, Gibbies.
Well, that's
Um,
that's my day and my week, and then I have a few more things to do. I have to get on an airplane again.
Oh God, where are you going now?
I'm actually going to well, not your hood, but I'm going to San Antonio.
Oh, that's right. You're going to San Antonio. Okay. Yeah, that's 4
Hmm.
hours away. That's quite a way still for me.
Yeah, it's not your hood.
No,
Mm.
it's closer, but just that's still quite a ways.
But I'll see you in November. So
Yes.
San Antonio.
Yes.
Yeah,
Is it where are we going this year? It's San Antonio, right?
it is
I
San
think
Antonio. Yeah.
I'm thinking Texas Unites. So Texas Unites, we just got an email. They're moving to Dallas.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
surprising.
I mean, Ed's from that part of the woods, so that makes sense.
Mm,
He's the president of Texas Unites.
okay.
So his operations are out that way. So it'd be good to have a change. I'm not going to that year's. I'm sending some more staff members out that way because I've already experienced Texas Unites. But yeah, change of scenery.
That'll be cool. Very
It will
cool.
be.
Well, I think we should jump into the program a lot of we've just been kind of going back and forth with some fun stuff. But that's I mean, I think it's good too to just talk about normal things here and there. We have some things definitely some things changing in the 2025. Like I really have some ideas how to incorporate some more of our cases that we've done in our field to discuss those, just like we did recently, even though it wasn't our case, but that the dog shooting case that we covered,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. You know, just to bring more of maybe a true crime type vibe to the show. Not that we're going to do that every single episode. I really do like having some of our guests that we do get on there. Some of these experts are awesome. I just think that it provides variety in getting into some of these case breakdowns are fun. Dr. G is one of our partner podcasts on the Keep It Humane podcast network. Dr. G had a couple case study podcasts, and those have been like my favorite podcasts. Just hearing whether it's the recording of the interview with the suspects or whether it's talking to the investigator, it's really cool. So we want to try to bring some more of that in 2025, which is sadly enough almost right here or 4 months away.
Don't remind me, like our fiscal year's coming up in October, and I'm like, what? Where did the year go?
Budget season.
Yeah. Well, but my budget season's usually early on, so they're approving budget now, essentially. But it's just I don't know where this year has gone. Like I'm about to be married for a whole year in November. Like
What?
that's gnarly.
That is gnarly. That
Ugh.
is. So you had a good idea for the show today to talk about some things about like kind of our outreach in some of those programs.
Yeah, I think like I mentioned earlier, we had a really good meeting with a large supporter rescue organization here in Texas on Friday, and just talking about our struggles and kind of what we go through specifically in our area, and what we struggle with as far as the animal control portion of what we do, and how we improve not only our relationship with the community but also the impact that we have on the community by programs, whether it's um taking a neighborhood and knocking on doors if we have issues, somewhere that, chickens are running loose or there's a lot of dogs running loose. I wish every department kind of took the reins on making sure they were community oriented rather than just being so reactive. And how do you get that point across to m- more than just your jurisdiction, if that makes sense?
It does. And I think one of the things that we've lost sight of, I think, in just the professional aspects of the service industry that we do is like relationship building. And I mean that in the aspects of like, I keep saying like, I don't know what's going on with me. I mean that in the aspects of creating these familiar faces, having trust in your community. And it's hard sometimes with the retention that we have in our profession because, if people are leaving your agency and somebody had a great rapport with Officer Jones or whoever it may be, and now Officer Smith comes in and they're like, man, I can't deal with Smith. Where's Jones at? And they're like, yeah,
Yeah.
Jones moved to Texas or wherever it may be.
Yeah.
But that's why I never loved the idea of switching districts. So if you have a huge agency and you're often switching districts, like I was a bit, this is, and I'm talking about when I was like in the field back in Denver, is we would rotate through our districts I want to say it was like every 4 months. It's just like, like I get it, but why? Like the police department you could bid every year
Mm-hmm.
and we would just rotate randomly. I'm like, but first off, I've created this like rapport with certain people in the community. Also, like I get familiar with that community, not just the geography of it, but the people. And then we would have some of the older officers, and they're no longer there, but they would talk about like, well, people could learn your habits. And they're like, well, don't give people an opportunity to learn your habits. Like that's that's a you thing. Like we have to work on our situational awareness and not let people like don't go to the same Walmart parking lot or don't go to the same place for lunch every day at the same exact time. Also, don't get on people's like nerves so bad where they want to learn your habits,
Yikes.
right?
Yeah. I don't think I've ever worked for a jurisdiction big enough to have zones.
Okay.
Yeah. So like right now, with my four officers, they just respond to calls as they come in. So they rotate through those calls. Obviously, if they have a certain citizen that they're very regular with, then they tend to kind of handle those situations. But yeah, we're just not big enough to do that because if not, I would have two officers sitting on their rears the whole day.
Yeah.
Because there's at least a good, I would say, 1/4 of town that we really don't get called out to for the most part. Like it's once in a blue moon. There are a lot of hot spots that we have that we go to frequently. So it wouldn't be fair for us right now to do something like that.
That makes sense. Back to the outreach stuff. I think it's important to just make that effort to create that environment though where there is that sense of customer service. And I talk about that a lot. Like when we hire new ACOs, I always look for like, does someone have that innate customer service skill, or do we have to teach them that? And then like, do you do a lot of events in your town?
We do a lot of events and I make sure that our officers are a part of that in some capacity, whether it's just one or two, to the point where we take our vehicles and I make sure that they are right front and center so that they understand that our officers are there. They're there checking people in for their rabies and microchips. Oftentimes, a lot of those clients or citizens are people who they've referred over to say, hey, yeah, this happened, but if you go to this event, we can talk about, any impending warning or something that I gave you. If you go get this done, it's for free and XYZ.
Yeah. And I think that's really important because then it feels like we're more approachable. And then the other thing about that
Mm-hmm.
too is the outreach aspect of like, if people see us doing good in the community, you build trust and then they're going to call you versus how many calls do you think we don't get because people don't trust our profession?
Correct. Or you even see it now on social media, even here locally with our small town, people are like, don't call animal control, they're just gonna kill the dog. I was like, no, we have scanners, every one of our animal control officers has a scanner. Yes, you can call them, they can come scan the dog, they won't take it from you, I promise. If you want to hold on to it, you're more than welcome to hold on to it.
Yeah, we had a law in our last agency, my last agency, that it said basically you had to report a stray within 24 hours. Now, who knows that? No one's going to know that to
Hmm.
animal control. Like, you can't think of everybody like being able to read every single law and ordinance in their town and know them verbatim. Like, no one's going to know that. But what it does is like creates this thing that basically says you have 24 hours to notify, and then animal control, upon, I hate the word demand, can take the animal.
Yeah. Ugh.
And it's, if you look at it from the aspects of like maybe it's a public safety issue, and so it's written in there if that animal is sick and we don't want it staying with a person because it's sick, or maybe it's a bite dog and we need to take it for quarantine, or there's a
Hmm.
history, maybe there's a history of this dog gets out all the time. And so like running it through that aspect of like, this can, we're going to take the dog and here's why. But I think it's important that that's explained, and having that good customer service is really important. That really goes back to like having people understand that, we're here to help the community, whichever way we can.
Yeah, I think, again, going back from, we're not dog catchers anymore, we're here to help. And, the last thing we want is to take an animal away from its home or, from its area. And that's why we knock on doors. I'm very proud of my officers, 900 animals last year that didn't have to come to the shelter.
That's huge. That's
Yeah.
huge.
So, they're amazing at what they do.
Have you heard of anyone calling it a sniffari?
A safari?
Like a sniffari.
Oh, no.
So this just came across my timeline on one of those apps, whether it was Instagram, and it was the cutest thing I've ever seen. I think it was like an older boxer dog, and the owner, she had her dog. And I'm starting to transition from saying owner though, because I'm trying to push for this tax credit for dogs. So the pet parent, ooh, ooh. Let's try that again. The pet, the caretaker. Can I do
Yeah,
that?
yeah, I mean I think that's how we have it in our ordinance. I think
All
we
right,
have a
cool.
definition for caretaker.
The caretaker, pet parent, it was just super cute. She was like, "So, does anyone else go on Sniffaris?" I was like, "Whoa, I got to see this." And she's like, "Yeah, basically all I do is like we go out and she sniffs, and whichever direction she goes, we go." And I'm like, "That is the cutest thing ever." And so on those RTOs that you're talking about, believe it or not, I've done it, and I know some other officers, maybe some of you that are listening right now, like, you know what? This dog can't be too far from home. Let's just put it on a leash and see if it takes us home. And sure enough, the Sniffari works.
Or the person who tells you it's not their dog, but it keeps going back to the front door and tries to get in, those
Or turns
people.
turns around and becomes like possessive aggressive, or defensive,
Mm-hmm.
defensive
Mm-hmm.
aggressive, like, hey.
But
Hmm.
they've never seen the dog before in their life.
Hmm. what's your what's your favorite, like, if you could have a magic wand, if they said Bishy? Oh, also people, just letting y'all know, it's now the Bishop and Bishy show. But I don't know if Bishy sounds too much like the
It
other
doesn't
thing,
it doesn't
because
bother
you're like
me.
the farthest thing from bitchy. So maybe we won't use Bishy. We got to think of another nickname though, because Bishop and Bishop, I don't know, Bishop one, Bishop two. Anyway, what if you had a magic wand and you could wave? Just say your department, because we have to remember every community is different. So for your department, and it would be like the ultimate outreach tool, what would it be and why? I had to say it like that. Why?
Why? Why? Um, Honestly, what I would love to do is to take one officer and call them our community officer and hook
Okay.
them up with my programs coordinator, get them a vehicle so that they can go around at least twice a month to vaccinate um and microchip our community's pets, like go directly to the houses and take our volunteer vet. I think i think it would help a lot with a lot of the problem areas that we see, where we get a lot of frequent flyers that are the same frequent flyers every week, around certain times of the year. I think that would be my biggest thing that I've been trying to achieve and hopefully achieve sooner than later with this new facility that we're going to get. Hopefully. I
Yeah.
know, yeah, San Antonio, I think, has something very similar. I think they call it CASA. I think, don't quote me on that. They have like a similar kind of unit, I would call it, where they go out and do those types of things.
I'll actually, I'm seeing an old friend from San Antonio this week, so that worked at the department. So I'll ask about
Mm.
CASA.
Yeah, I think it's CASA. I was trying to look it up earlier and I saw it on
That's a huge
their
department
social.
too.
It is. It is. It's crazy because I know the manufacturer who makes our trucks is also doing the fleet for them, and I can't imagine having that many officers.
Well, I'm about to be living that, brother or
Oh,
sister. I'm about to be living that because
that's a
not saying
lot.
it. I'm not going to San Antonio though, people. Just so you know. But same size, similar size, and I'm
Ooh,
super excited about it. I'm grateful for the opportunity. I'm a little humbled by the just the overall like vastness, if that's the right word. And so I'm just really excited to go in and learn. Um, but resources are super important. You know, we have to like in order for us to change the image of the dog catcher, we have to be able to provide resources, but also accept them. And it's one thing, there was a survey put out on our group page, the Animal Control Report. There's a private group for the Animal Control Report, but there's also the public page on Facebook. And the Denver University Institute for Human Animal Connection posted asking people to take a brief survey about animal control in general. Really, though, it's not just in general, it was about how you approach enforcement. And I don't know, we asked them to come on to discuss the study and yet to schedule something, but as soon as we do, we'll let y'all know. Um, but to me, when I was going through the study, I was just trying to understand because it's not clear. Do they think that we should never uh, punish? And I hate to use that word, but enforce with um, criminal cases? Because if it's a intentional animal cruelty or just a severe neglect or intentional neglect, that needs to be absolutely enforced criminally. Where I'm going with this though is in that survey they talked about the aspects of like, do you or does your department take feedback from the community or gather the community's input when making decisions, like whether it's changes to your ordinances or policy changes? And I think that is all well and good in some aspects for transparency, but at the same time, and I'm going to use that but intentionally, I don't want community members that don't have any idea of the day-to-day operations of our organization, or maybe that's one community person, one community member in one aspect of town, but over here it's way different. And so we need to rely on us as the subject matter experts to make those decisions, not just, and not saying we can't have those open conversations. We just need to make sure that it's very clear that just because you've made your recommendations doesn't necessarily mean it has to be implemented from the department.
correct. And we take that input, especially when we're changing ordinance and stuff like that. We allow for it to go out, obviously, to our citizens so that they can review it and things like that and get their opinions. But I don't disagree with you. I think it's people think they can walk in our shoes, but they really can't. And I find it difficult sometimes to explain to people what it is that we see and what we have to deal with when they think that the one thing on our mind is just euthanasia, and that's all that we want to do when that is far from the truth. We had a conversation the other day about hoarding and in some of the training that I was doing. And I told them, I was like, with those people, you want to create those relationships because at the end of the day, you're going to have to be a frequent flyer in those homes because those people don't stop. You can remove all the animals all at once, but they will not stop. So it's important to keep those relationships. And I send out, my matchmaker, Micah Smith. She's amazing, and she has just that rapport and just that type of personality that can connect with people in a way that says, you know, hey, we mean business, but at the same time, we're also here to help you to make it better. That way we don't have to get to that point. And there's a lot of situations, I'm sure you've been in them in them too, Dan, where, you know, you go into a situation and yeah, it's probably bad, but there's opportunity to make it better. You know, we don't always go into a situation and automatically citations, you know, that's not,
Right.
or, you know, going criminal with whatever, you know, sometimes, you know, but sometimes it's necessary, unfortunately, you know, to get that point through. And I think when all agencies get to a point where they take that seriously, I think is when we start going in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there has to be a level of like humility and understanding that it's okay for us to be vulnerable in what we do. Like we don't have to walk around like this with our chest out. We're the law. Like we don't need that. We don't need that.
People already don't take us seriously enough for that.
I know. And you know, I've met some officers in my time that really take that officer role
Mm.
heavily. And you know, what I've found is like there isn't, and I'll just speak to like my own experience, there isn't expectations put out there saying like a clear, maybe it's a clear like mission statement or vision plan, or you know, maybe it's a strategic plan, something like that that really is clear. So the message is like, this is what the expectations are. And for me, like my expectations are always for this profession is like safety. I think that's really important for you as the officer. I've known too many officers that have been injured on the job, whether it be minor or severe. And big shout out to them for, you know, staying with it and getting back, recovering. But then the public safety aspect, the animal safety aspect, and then a level of professionalism. Like I think it's important that we, you know, do have like, maybe we're still allowed to wear suits and tennis shoes. It's just we do it in a way that's tactful and, you know, respectful in the community. We have to know, you know our audience in that aspect, but at the same time, like you have to balance it and make sure that you're looking at the fun of the job. And like one of my favorite things that I used to do in the field, I was huge on outreach, Bishop. I would literally, I'll never forget this. And this is kind of what got me on this podcast 5 years ago. Wow. Is one of the first things, I just had this itch to like want to give back to the community. And I've probably said this before, but it goes back to my childhood and to like not having much. I didn't have much growing up. And I just would remember we'd walk to school and we'd get to the crossing guards. And if for those of you that like have or know what crossing guards are, they're usually volunteers and they stand near the school and they make sure you don't get hit by a car when you cross the street. Well, in Pittsburgh, PA, I was growing up, you know, going to grade school in the early 80s, mid early 80s. And I was, you know, the Pittsburgh Steelers were a huge thing and still are, just saying, still are. Some people might not think they're relevant, but they are. They're awesome. I also think Justin Fields is going to start for those of you that are listening. Anyway, we'll get back to that. But every time you would cross the street to go to school, you'd get a new card. It was a football card. It was a Pittsburgh Steelers football card, and it was either sponsored by McDonald's and or our grocery store, which was called Giant Eagle. So you'd get these cards, and then you'd get them, and like it would be a football card, and you'd be so excited about like getting this free thing. And so I think that experience in life led me to like try to figure out a way how we could get donated treats. Because what I envisioned was, instead of us being known as like, we're just going to stop and talk to you when you're at the park throwing a ball to your dog, we're going to change that. So if I see you walking down the street and your dog's on a leash, maybe you have a bag of poop that you're carrying, I just pulled over. And so what I ended up doing is one day, it wasn't busy. For those of you that live in the Denver metro area, York and 40th Street, 42nd, 43rd and York. You can Google that, 42nd and York. I think it's York or Josephine. I think it's York though. Anyway, it's either or, but it just put in 4200 block of Josephine. You could see the Purina dog food plant there. It's right there in the middle of Denver. You can smell it. you could smell it many days of the week. It's not that neat.
I was gonna say,
But
neat that it's there, but
I just pulled up in the work truck one day and I said, "Hey, is there anyone I could talk to about potentially like working out a way that we can get dog treats donated to our officers so we can use it as outreach material?" And so sure enough, we were getting boxes. We'd have to go pick them up. Eventually it turned into we scheduled deliveries, but uh, we would go get these treats. And then one of our officers thought of a great idea to like put like a little, like almost like a card on it to say like, here's why you're getting it. Because think about it. You just pull up on somebody, you get out in uniform. You're like, hey, thanks for having your dog on a leash. Here's a bag of treats. And then you just walk away. And so it was like, it was more or less like, I mean, now in today's age, we could put a QR code and direct them right to like the important facts, like spay and neuter, license your pet, vaccinate, those type of things. And so, from there, I fell in love with it, the idea of like being able to reach the community that way. And then, those that know, I used to buy these Matchbox trucks all the time and then give those away to kids. I mean, that came right out of my pocket, dude. I bought a lot of those and then shared a lot with our community of ACOs. So shout out to the ones that got on board with that. So that outreach, that aspect changed, in my opinion, that changes that image of the dog catcher.
I don't disagree whatsoever, which is why, we try to make our officers front and center. And I think, even today, even if we're not doing events or something like that, our officers ensure that if they're back at home base, our trucks are in the, where the community can see before they come into the shelter, so if they have any questions, they're up there front and center, for anything that they need, or they're helping out, with customers and things like that. And I'm hoping to get to a point where we do stuff like that, where we can actually patrol rather than, and for the good and the bad,
Sure, absolutely.
obviously, but it's just, we're not to that point yet. We're very much a reactive department at this point because of the amount of city one that we have to take care of, and the little amount of officers that I have. But I mean, that's a great idea. I mean, it doesn't hurt to always have a positive interaction, even if it's for no reason to that person. It puts a good light in the community and say, hey man, this animal control officer for our city stopped by and they gave me treats, and hey, there's some information, I needed to get my dog spayed or neutered. And that's amazing. That's amazing.
And we did other things too, like things that you could just easily do within your agency, especially like smaller towns. Just do a Google search and like for all your veterinarians, because we weren't allowed to like recommend one veterinarian over the other. And so what we would do is just, we would basically put together a 3 pages together, front and back, of like all the veterinarians broken down by district. So if you're on the west side, if you're on the south side, like here's the veterinarians, just to make it an easy resource. Because at the end of the day, when we were like, hey, I'm giving you a week to get that animal fixed, or not, right, whether it was fixed or meaning fixed, like because it was neglected or something else was going on. And they're like, well, I don't know where to go. And it's like, well, now you do, because now here's this 3-page sheet. Like we would put everything on there, from the low costs to the mobiles to all the ones in their community. And it would literally have the phone number, the address, the website. And that was done internally. Like we would do that. We would sit down and work on it, get that stuff out there, and then make it look presentable, make sure that there were no issues with legal, and then get that out. So I think at the end of the day, like we definitely can change our image. And, I think you brought up when we were, first off, really quick, I know I popcorn a lot, but that's okay. It's okay. I don't think many people know what like really goes on behind the scenes when we do these podcasts. And so we text. I'm actually grateful for our group text that we have, and it's not just about the show, but it's a friendship that the three of us have, and it's really fun to talk about certain things and just check in and do that stuff. So I think you're the leader in the clubhouse with that, with the check-ins. But I'm trying to take on your you lead by example, so take on your energy there when it comes to that. My point is, like, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. So when we were talking about today's episode, we normally record in the morning, but my one of my kiddos was in town, and then she had a flight just recently home, and so we couldn't record in the morning because we were kind of busy doing some stuff. And so you've always been super great and flexible with the time. So I want to say I appreciate that and thank you very much for being flexible. But one of the things you brought up in today's prep for the show when we were doing that is like, where do we see us in 10 years? I thought that was a really interesting question that you thought of. And so I guess I'll start with you. Like, where do you see animal control in 10 more years from now?
I see
20.
us as first
Yeah.
responders.
Mm.
I really see us as first responders, and, gaining the respect that I think the industry deserves. Um, I think I talked about it briefly, but I had a interaction with one of our committee members 2 or 3 weeks ago, where it ended up in tears, on my end, and not because of anything bad, but just expressing what they don't understand, what goes behind closed doors. She was having an issue, and I was addressing it, and I was like, hey, you need to understand where we're coming from on our end, and why it is we do what we do. Just that understanding that, this is a profession that is professional, for lack of better terms. We are, people in this industry are very passionate about what they do, and they want to see our industry grow into more professionals. We want people to take on our legacies. Between myself, Dan, you're a very big proponent in our industry. People know who you are and what you stand for, and I think it's
Probably
great. And
for bad though, not for
shut
good.
up, shut up. I think, I think it's great to have, Tabitha and Kelly, of the worlds, humane educators, shout outs. We love them. It's great to have those people really push forward the rhetoric that we deserve respect. I hate to say it like that because it sounds ugly. Um, but I want people to understand that, this is my life's work.
Mm.
For you too, Dan, this is our life's work. This is what I was put on this planet for, is to do what I'm doing right now. And, I hope to see the gathering of all of our industry components, hopefully in 10 years, to come together for the common goal, which is to help people help animals, just honestly. As frustrating as it is, where we're at right now in the scope of things, I hope that we can all come together, both internally and externally, to really take our profession and for what it is, full of professionals who are trained and should be respected for all the hard work that they do every single day. Every single day. We're just like other agencies who are 365 days a year, a
Mhm.
year, just that respect, and that we do become first responders, even federally, not just within our states.
I agree, and I think however we can help get there, we understand, and it's something that I talk about all the time, is we understand it's not a one person thing. And I mean, you use some of the great verbiage there, is like it's our life's work, and I truly believe that. And also, be on the lookout for getting tagged in a Facebook post from Humane Educators of Texas, because I think they're on a hunt. I think it's a treasure hunt to see how often they're mentioned in our podcast. So we'll see if they made it all the way through or not. Uh, but in all seriousness, I think, man, that was, and maybe it was from, honestly, as we get like a little deep here, maybe it was from my own insecurities when I like got into this profession of like wanting to make sure we were recognized for the hard work that we do. And like that could be my own deep core, deep rooted issues that I was like projecting onto the profession. But the more that I got into the profession and understood, like, wow, we really are seen as the dog catcher. Like it was disrespectful because I love this work so much and I love this community so much that I I really took a lot of like insult from that. And so I think as we, can do some of the things that we're doing to continue to bring the spotlight forward, it will change. And we there's a few key components that I think have to happen, maybe even from outside our industry. And one of the things I was just looking at today um, was the lobbyists that are employed by, I shouldn't say employed by, because I don't know exactly what their connection is, but the AKC, the American Kennel Club, has a group of lobbyists, and they even have a super PAC, or a PAC that helps get the right people in political places, and that are animal friendly people. And so I think having conversations with AKC, because they have such a, you know, a well-known name. And that's the thing that we forget, I think, sometimes, is like our profession. We know the ASPCAs, we know the best friends, we know the HSUSs, but I'm talking about average Joe on the street. They might know AKC more than they know the other ones, except the ASPCA because of Sarah McLaughlin. Shout out in the arms of an angel. Sorry. Can't help it. Uh, but my point of that is, like, when we get on the level of where our people are, when we just had Tema Martin on a couple episodes ago talking about her role. And one of the things that stood out when she was doing some contract work with Shelter Animals Counts, and I didn't know this, but it makes sense. And now when I look, like, I live by this dog beach, beautiful off leash dog beach, love it. Even the sharks love it too, but that's a whole different story.
Oh no.
No, the Chihuahuas, the land sharks.
Okay. Hey, listen.
However, as I look around, I'm like, yeah, that dog didn't come from a shelter. That dog didn't come from a shelter. And what she said on the episode, and if you missed it, go back. It's a 2-part episode. Was they found some data. It might have been through Maddie's Fund. I forget who found it, but that 20% of dogs come from shelters. And it's like, whoa. But we're so immersed in it, we think all the dogs come from a shelter, because that's what we're used to. And so my point of, like, talking about the AKC and, like, our profession moving forward is, how do we get them to support what I was talking about, the spay and neuter law that would basically be a federal law allowing for a tax break on your family member because it is a family member. How do we get somebody that promotes responsible breeding? How do we get them to support something that would almost counterintuitively not support responsible? You know what I mean? Like, that's the tricky thing. We need to have that, I'll say it, I say it a lot, is we need to have that stakeholder group that, from all angles, shelter managers, animal control folks, veterinarians, nonprofits, like, we need to have that stakeholder group to really come together once a month, once a quarter, I don't know what it is, and work on the common goal, and not just be singularly focused.
Yeah, I mean, both you and I have been in the municipal or some kind of government facility or agency. And, one thing that I have learned and that my supervisor has taught me is, you're never going to make everybody happy. That's for damn sure. And I think that's what makes it really hard for us in our industry, is that while I full-heartedly support, breeders who are all about standards and, whatever, at the same time, I don't see them ever going in for that spay and neuter, regardless of what, how do I put this? I don't see them supporting that regardless of what it meant for them, because of the hurt that's going to do to their industry. I just, I wish, and there's a lot of good people out there, I'm sure, but at the same time, it's an industry that I don't think will ever stop, because the consumer is never going to stop until they are actually in our shoes, all the way down to the AKC breeders. Come do what we do on a daily basis.
I
you
will
know
say, yeah, there could be compromise though, Bishop. Like,
yeah.
there could be compromise, allowing a certain amount of breeders, a certain amount of litters. Like, maybe a stud can only impregnate 6 litters. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff to the wind here, but before being neutered, or a bitch can only have 6 litters of puppies before she has to be spayed. I don't know that answer. That's why I feel it's important that we get together as a group and stop having these silos, and, like, it's great to be focused on our industry and, well, excuse me, it's great to be focused on our personal agendas or our professional agendas. I get that, and I understand that through and through. At the end of the day, we're never going to get to where we want to go if we can't start having conversations as a larger group, in my opinion.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't disagree. A lot of times, even my supervisor tells me, I'm always seeing the world like this. And for those of you who are just listening, I'm putting my hands up against my eyes or
Tunnel
my
vision.
face, tunnel vision, and it's true. A lot of times I do see it that way, because I've been doing this for so long, and I've learned a lot in the supervisor role and just meeting people in our industry where, like, oh, okay, maybe people do see it that way. Well, then, okay, we need to explain, this, that, or the other. But I'm always going to be a glass half empty type gal. It's just, I
Well,
just,
we got to make it a class half full type of girl.
I wish, I hope in 10 years, and I don't think I wholeheartedly agree with you, Dan. I think that if we reached outside of our, I guess, those who we would normally seek to make change in our industry, I think it could help, and hopefully we do get there, honestly.
And that's the thing, is like, I know I can be outspoken and bold on some of my like beliefs and subjects and such. I get that. But at the same time, I truly believe that I can be reasonable with people and be someone that can move the needle in some aspects, like really push people to just try something else, be different. You can always go back to the way it was. I'm a firm believer in that. And so we have to continue. I think we have to continue this narrative, and we will. We're excited about the future of this profession. And, I'm grateful again for this outlet that we have here on the Keep It Humane podcast network with the Animal Control Report and some of the other great podcasts. I'll be on one of our partner podcasts coming up. I was just on with Dr. G on the Animal Welfare Junction, and then late in August, I'm going to join our Community Cats partners. So they have a great podcast as well. So check that out. keepinghumane.com/podcast network. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, rate, review. People review. We just got added to the top 50 podcast in the US for pets and animals. And that is I would say a fluid ranking. So the more you review, the higher up we go. So review, like, share, rate. Check out the website for some cool gifts coming soon. I got new stickers coming. Got new patches. The hook and loop patches should be here in a couple weeks. And then I just reordered the Catchable self-defense keychains. So
I'm excited for the patches.
same. I'll have those in Texas for sure. So
Hell yeah.
Well, Bishop, thanks for your time tonight.
It's
And
dark.
don't forget to help people.
Help animals.
Keep it humane.